And we are off. Hi, everyone. Look who's here. It's Tuesday, December 2nd. We're back to Livid La Vida Loca, or maybe Live in La Vida Loca, since the Dolphins are on a 3-game winning streak. It's Ken Levica, the voice of FAU Athletics, Inter Miami Soccer, ESPN radio talk show host. All of the above, an all-around good guy. Ken, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, and it's probably just as far as the Dolphins are concerned, above average. La Vida Loca. I'm not too high. I'm not too low. I'm prescient, and that's how I feel about the entire thing. I don't have. I will say this: the viewing experience on Sunday was one of the more relaxed, seeing impending doom coming, relaxed, sort of willing to accept whatever comes type of mood that I've been in quite some time. Because after watching that dreck for 3.5 hours, I didn't even care anymore at that point.
And for those who were complaining that I was poo-pooing a win because a win is a win is a win is a win is a win, and you play to win the game, what I was hoping to see for the Dolphins to give me some encouragement driving into December, the title of this episode, was basically what the New England Patriots did to the New York Giants on Monday night. Leave it a no doubt we're the better team type of win. And it looked that way a little bit at halftime with 16-0, even though I don't think the Dolphins were overwhelming after the first drive. And then it came down to like nail-biting time at the end.
Yeah. It's funny because we've got all this college football playoff conversation and who's deserving and who has the resume. And Miami and Notre Dame are in a common opponent off that Texas has now jumped in on. And Steve Sarkisian is taking shots at Mario Cristobal for throwing wide receiver touchdown passes at Pitt up 31-7 to try and inflate the score. That does live in the same vein, just from a making you feel better about where things are at, or potentially where they could go, where you'd like the Dolphins to choke the life out of the Saints, who, again, they're the most nondescript team in the NFL this season. Like, I have not spent one single solitary second thinking about them outside of them playing the Dolphins on Sunday, and they just are incapable of doing it. I mean, think about this, Poop. In the 3-game winning streak, the most confident you have felt about the Dolphins was the game against the Bills. Yep. Of all teams. You had the Commanders in there and the Saints in there. How bizarre is that?
Very. My 2 quick cents here, and Ken, you can chime in as well. We'll do it very briefly because it's a Dolphins podcast. But I say this as respectfully as possible, but big part of me wants to say, Steve Sarkisian, your team has 3 losses, including 1 to Florida. Please let the big boys talk and decide what should be in the conversation. And then my overriding feeling is Miami beat Notre Dame. That should be the end of it, considering they have 2 losses and neither of them have great wins other than that. But I can't help escape the feeling it's Notre Dame, and the College Football Playoff Committee is going to find a way to get Notre Dame, and there is no way they're going to leave Notre Dame out.
You are correct on all 3 points, like spot on. Steve Sarkisian lost to a team in Florida that was significantly worse than the Vanderbilt team that Alabama lost to last year, and that cost Alabama a trip to the college football playoff. So losing to Florida should absolutely cost Texas a chance to go to the college football playoff. And they went to overtime with Mississippi State and with Kentucky. So I don't know what else. Oh, but we played Ohio State close. Maybe we shouldn't schedule those games. Typical SEC crying. Alabama did it last year. It's that time of year. SEC tears. Miami head-to-head. I can't believe that's not the only factor that's coming into play when you factor in Notre Dame. But you're right, because Notre Dame doesn't have a conference, because Notre Dame is privileged, and Notre Dame has the undying love of the committee and college football brain trust. They're absolutely getting in. There is an inherent bias for Notre Dame every time.
Yeah, and it's Notre Dame, and it's the SEC teams. It's Ohio State, Michigan, and all that. Anyway, we don't want to dive down that rabbit hole, even though I could talk about it because it annoys me to no end. I'm still pissed off, even though I don't have a horse in the race.
It's annoying.
FSU being left out of the playoffs a couple of years ago because their quarterback got hurt, to me, was like outrageous. Anyway, on a happier note, we should celebrate a very nice anniversary for Dolphin fans. Ken, I don't even know if you were born then. If you were just a little itty bitty boy. It was December 2nd, 1985, 40 years ago today. The Miami Dolphins defeated the Chicago Bears at the Orange Bowl, Monday night game. The Bears came into the game at 12-0. I have done lists on MiamiDolphinsOnSI.com ranking the biggest upsets in Dolphin history. I have some fans who scolded me for not having that at the top, to which I have said before, I'm going to say again, Dolphins were 8-4 that year. It's not like they were a bad team. Yes, they beat a team that's one of the greatest in NFL history. The Dolphins also were very good. And the Dolphins just came up with a brilliant offensive game plan to neutralize the 46 defense. They used 3 wide receivers, with Nat Moore joining Mark Dapin, Mark Clayton, and Mark Duper. And Dolphins raced a 31-10 halftime lead. They won 38-24. Should have been a rematch in the Super Bowl, but the Dolphins gagged in the AFC Championship game, losing to the New England Patriots at home 31-14. And I would confidently say that the Super Bowl that year wouldn't have been a 46-10 final for Chicago as it was against New England, even though the Dolphins logically would have lost the rematch.
Yeah. Me growing up in Chicagoland, that game in particular has a lot of lore attached to it. I was a year and a half at that point, so I don't remember. I was too busy probably chewing something. I don't know. But my father has spoken very unglowingly of that December the 2nd, but has said that as soon as the AFC Championship game was played, and they knew that it was the Patriots over the Dolphins, the Bears fans that he was watching that game with, there was a secondary celebration, because it was just obvious what was going to happen in the Super Bowl. No one in Chicago wanted the Dolphins again. Nobody. And as soon as it wasn't the Dolphins again and it was Grogan, that was a done deal.
It's Tony Eason, I believe.
Was it Eason or was it Grogan?
I believe it was Tony Eason who played in the Super Bowl, and he played. By all means, check it up as you type. As I will throw in another anecdote of that Monday night game. Buddy Ryan and Mike Ditka got into it on the Bears sideline as they were dealing with the frustration of getting handled for the first time all year. This was a defense that pitched, if memory serves, they pitched 2 shutouts in the 2 playoff games before they got to the Super Bowl. I mean, it was a crazy, ridiculous defense, and the Dolphins absolutely had their number that night. So
it was Grogan. Grogan 17 of 30, 177, 2 interceptions and a touchdown.
In the AFC Championship game or in the Super Bowl?
Oh, no, I was talking about in the Super Bowl. I'm sorry.
Whoa, I was talking about the Super Bowl. Wait a second. I could have sworn Tony Eason was the QB in the Super Bowl. Maybe my memory is failing me.
I don't know. I'm definitely looking at the box score. And I'm not trying to be like, I told you so, poop.
No, I corrected you. So by all means, the only reason I ever correct my guests on the show is I want the facts to be correct. If I say something that's wrong, I absolutely want it corrected. And I'm looking at the game book. It was Tony Eason. So I don't know where you look at. I have basically the NFL official website.
Weird. I have Eason.
No. Again, I take it back. They both were played, actually. Eason was 0 for 6. Eason started, was 0 for 6, 3 sacks. And I guess he got injured. Steve Grogan came in 17 for 30, sacked 4 times.
Gotcha. Yeah, it was Eason in the AFC title game for sure.
Got it. Correct. And Eason started.
Yep.
The Super Bowl was replaced by Grogan. So we're both right. How about that?
Yeah. I just think my childhood memories, because it's when you grow up in Chicagoland, part of the, like when you're in first grade, you're tested on the 85 Bears. So you watch a lot of videos, and seeing Steve Grogan's body just splayed on the turf in New Orleans over and over again. That's what sticks with you in your subconscious, because he took a horrendous beating in that game.
He did, and so did Eason. And I recalled one of the memories I have is Eason looked, and I hate to say this about any football player, but Eason was seeing ghosts, if not going so far as to say he was a little intimidated by that Bears pass rush.
Yep.
Which was understandable. So those were the Dolphins beat that team. Those were obviously the good old days of the Dolphins when we entered December with them always being in the conversation. Even in the early
My whole
2000s.
childhood was that. My whole childhood was the Dolphins being in the playoffs every single year of my childhood. And then now, almost every single year of my adulthood has not been the Dolphins in the playoffs, like ever, for the exception of 2 or 3 times. How crazy the fortunes of a franchise can just turn. And that's what makes Dolphins fans, I'm sure, feel like this is never ending quicksand. By the way, quicksand, not a real thing the way cartoons convey where you can die from it. But you know what I mean. Just stuck in the mud constantly in an incessant loop.
No, without question. And it goes back to, and I'm thinking back also to the days of somebody with a connection to Chicago and Miami, Dave Wanstead, whose tenure as Dolphin head coach is not remembered very fondly. Except the truth is, Dolphins went to the playoffs with him his first 2 years there, and they were in contention. Even they didn't go in 2002 when they were 9-7. And would have gone to the playoffs if Jay Fiedler hadn't gotten hurt. And in 2003, when they were 10-6 and then make the playoffs, and then it fell apart in 2004. And I think Dolphin fans, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, would like to have a team that's in contention every year, even if it's not producing the ultimate result. We're not there right now. It's just a question of, is there any chance in hell the Dolphins can work their way into the playoff picture? It's funny because they're sometimes in the lurking or in the hunt graphics. Sometimes they're not. The Athletics playoff simulator model has them right now less than 1% chance. If they win out, 13%. So let's just say it doesn't look very promising.
No, it definitely does not look promising. And it's funny, quick note on Dave Wanstead too, and he was the coach of the Bears. The only playoff win for the Bears until over a like 15-year span was, Miami fans will appreciate this, Steve Walsh and the Bears going into Minnesota and winning a wild card game before getting absolutely clubbed to death by the 49ers the very next week in the divisional round. But with the Dolphins, as we've established, Poop, this is not a new conversation for us. Like, you just sort of ride the wave, see what you like, see what you don't like, because the playoffs are not going to happen. Do not get tricked and or at least given confidence by the in the hunt graphic. But what I like is Devon Achane. What I like is the ability to run block along the offensive line. What I like, and it's still a work in progress, is some of the flashes you see from the secondary. I like seeing Zach Sealer starting to show up. And so if you can compartmentalize that and realize you're going to be not watching the Dolphins in the playoffs, it's going to make your life a lot easier. And that's where I'm at right now.
No, fair enough. No, and there are a couple of other positive developments recently. Is the rookie defensive tackles keep slowly getting better and better. Jonas Avainaya is going to keep slowly getting better and better. I would say, even though I don't know how he fits into the plans in 2026, and I wrote about this on Miami Dolphins on SI.com, all content for free. Earlier on Tuesday, Bradley Chubb, who picked up an incentive with a sack against the Saints, dude has been balling since the Dolphins traded Jalen to the Eagles. He has been really, really good. Where I thought in the first, he had a sack in each of the first 3 games, and I was like, he's being lucky because I'm not feeling him at all. The last 3 games since Phillips got traded, he has been very good.
What do you make of that, by the way? Because I was thinking about that. I mean, obviously, you would think that with Chubb and Jalen Phillips both rushing the passer, that they would make each other better. And we've seen that throughout times, I think, in that dual Dolphins tenure. But now with Jalen Phillips gone, Bradley Chubb has had his best moments of the season. Is that him just getting increasingly healthier? Is that him knowing that he's the primary passer? I don't know how to consume that. What I do know, and I don't want to get myself to a point where I'm overly excited because he's just walking porcelain and injury waiting to happen. But man, but when he's healthy, when he's glued together properly, it's really fun to watch him, and he's very effective. So I'm having trouble fully consuming that.
It also just might be that maybe it took him a while to get back in, because he didn't play at all in 2024.
Right.
After tearing an ACL and plus, it was tearing an ACL plus in that New Year's Eve day. Doesn't make any sense, but whatever. December 31st in the afternoon at Baltimore in 2023. spent all of last year working his way back, never got activated from PUP. And then this year, again, and in training camp, I made this comment a couple of times on the podcast, to me, he looked slow. I mean, he looked like there was no pop in his game whatsoever. And early in the season, it was a bit of a continuation of that. And then the last several weeks, like I said, he's looked like the guy we saw before the injury in 2023. It may be that he needed even bit more time. I don't know. Dolphins are going to have a decision to make with him. And again, all the details are in the story. I'm not going to give it all up over here. So the Dolphins have won 3 in a row. Bills, Washington, New Orleans. They got the Jets on Sunday. They got Pittsburgh the following Monday night. They got Cincinnati the following week. And then close against Tampa Bay and Cincinnati in New England. What's your realistic guess for how long the winning streak winds up being?
I against all of my better judgment on this, think they go into MetLife and beat the Jets. It's going to be not fun again, like it was against the Saints. It is not going to resemble the type of football that, say, the Patriots played last night. It'll look like it's a totally different sport, but I think that the Dolphins are going to win against the Jets. Now, the Steelers won. Last time we talked, Poop, you remember that we said this is the fascinating one. Yep. This is the one going into whatever they call Heinz Field now. There you go, Acrisure. It doesn't necessarily roll off the tongue as well. And another thing with Heinz Field, it's all yellow. Like, it just made sense with mustard and the whole thing. Now, my wife doesn't like mustard. I'm a huge yellow mustard fan. There's strife there in the household. What are you on board with mustard or not mustard?
Absolutely. Love mustard. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Damn right, Poop. So going in there, though, it's not only a chance to move the winning streak to 5 and then really get our senses titillated only to be let down in the final 3 weeks of the season, but you could play big-time spoiler against Aaron Rodgers as well. And wouldn't that warm a lot of football fans' hearts? And to me, you look at the amount of criticism Tua got, and rightfully so, for just being a little bit reckless at the podium and seemingly calling people out. Yeah. You know what I mean? For the meetings, and are they putting enough work in, all that. I'm just paraphrasing. Aaron Rodgers is doing the same exact thing, and he directly, by name, called out Jonnu Smith, former Dolphin, on Sunday. So things are fracturing in true Aaron Rodgers late career locker room mode. That can be an awful lot of fun if the Dolphins go in there and can poke enough holes in the Steelers.
No, without question. And the Steelers, it should be mentioned, are coming off a game at home where they gave up over 200 yards rushing. And that's where the Dolphins are doing very well right now. So if James Cook can rush for, I don't know what he had, $180 or whatever it was, the idea of Devon Achane putting up big numbers against the Steelers, which when the season begins, you think, yeah, hell no, that's not going to happen. Maybe it is going to happen.
Maybe. And then from that, though, you have Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Yeah, Joe Burrow coming down here. So you've won 5 straight. Joe Burrow comes down here, but you're playing the game at home. And the Bengals, I know they had that big win in Baltimore, but it's still the Bengals who still have that defense. That was a very one-off, I think, performance against the Ravens. And you can put yourself in a position to win that one. Again, at home against the Bengals. And then if Baker Mayfield is not back, you've got a Teddy Bridgewater-led Buccaneers team that comes into Hard Rock Stadium. Can a guy just dream a little bit that you beat Tampa Bay, and then maybe not? And it probably is going to be better if the Dolphins lose one of those 2 games for your man's sanity. Because what if in this hypothetical, the Dolphins' playoff hopes and dreams come down to going to Foxborough to knock off what could be the 1 seed in the AFC, New England Patriots, and that mountain you would have to climb. So I guess what I'm saying is all of this is conceivable, unlikely, but the Dolphins have, at least, if this gives you any solace this season, have put you in a spot to believe that maybe, just maybe, there is a glimmer of hope. And I guess that's all we were asking for when the Dolphins were in the midst of the season tanking 4 weeks ago.
Okay, but then that presents the issue of, then does that mean that we have a running back situation in 2026 with Mike McDaniel, Tua, and very possibly Champ Kelly as the GM? And is that desirable?
No, that is not desirable, and that's where the temptation, like from a fan standpoint, it's fine to say, "Boy, I'm glad that happened." I can be an irrational fan and say, "Man, that was a lot of fun." But then the intelligent part of my fan brain says, "Chris Greer isn't here anymore. Go ahead and make difficult decisions, and let's not rebuild, but let's certainly try to unload, especially some of the contracts that might be anchoring us down. Take a new approach to the sum of the position groups that are really weighing this team down, and let's get a little bit younger as well, so we can be relatively, you can see flashes of competitiveness over the next 2-3 years. It might not be playoff worthy, but certainly give yourself a sturdier base than the house of cards that the last couple of years have been with this team, especially at the quarterback position. You're not changing Tua likely, but you need better around Tua now, because you can't depend on him, and it's like watching a boulder try to run when he tries to escape the pocket.
Okay, so we'll get back to Tua. So even if the Dolphins, let's say they go 4-1 down the stretch, not predicting it, but let's just say for hypothetical purposes, that means they will have finished the season 7-1. That does not bring you hope as a fan that if you run it back, maybe the lessons that they will have learned, i.e. most significantly focusing on the running game on offense, could not be applied from the start of the season, and therefore the results could be different because we didn't wait until the Atlanta game to do it, the 8th game?
No, I'm not falling into that trap, because the previous 3 years lessons should have been learned, and I don't see a playoff win coming from that either. And I see late season collapses coming from that. So this would be a 180 where you got stronger as the year went on, but I'm not falling into that trap, and the Dolphins shouldn't fall into that trap. You want Devon Achane to continue to run the ball better and be good. Keep fortifying the offensive line. Make sure that is solid. And again, the ticket of this offense is Tua. Like, that's the one that still is the motor for this entire thing. And you only but so you're not, but what I'm saying is Tua's not going anywhere. So you better fortify around it, because also though, you cannot run Devon Achane 25 times a game for 17 games in the regular season. I know we're excited and I know it's fun, but this ain't Ricky Williams where you can just feed him and punish him and blast him. So you need to find a secondary way to move the football, knowing you have a wildly limited quarterback. And I just don't think having Waddle as your number one and Waller as your starting tight end, that's not going to help. You've got to get better in the receiver room, because you know Tyreek Hill's not coming back. I
agree there. But to me, it's like the Dolphins base Tua right now. Yeah, I'm going to actually say it. Tua, throughout his tenure under Mike McDaniel, has been a game manager. Yeah. He was when in 2022, 2023, he was a very high-end game manager. Because he was maximizing the opportunities that were there, and the numbers were showing because of it. Now he has become a pedestrian, the game manager, which is why the emphasis, because he's not played very well at all the last couple of games, and the Dolphins are winning. And that's what they're going to continue to have to do, barring an uptick. And generally speaking, December is now when Tua's performance picks up. Mm-hmm. Usually it goes the other way. So heading into next season, and I'm with you, I think everybody sees it, the cap number, he's going to be on the roster. Are you going to be able to get something better midway through the first round, or a veteran somewhere else who might become available, who's not picked up by another team? Yeah, I don't know. You hope that Tua comes back a little bit more towards the level he should be playing at, which he hasn't reached the last couple of games. The thing about Achane, you mentioned 25 carries a game. The last 3 games during which he's rushed for 120 yards each time, 22 carries, 21 carries, 22 carries. It's not a huge load. And the guy has proven durable. And because I'm with you, he shouldn't be carrying the ball 25, 35 times a game. But these are really good numbers. Mike McDaniel's run game genius tag kind of showing a little bit because the Dolphins are doing some really good work in the running game, not against great teams. Even Buffalo is a very good team, but Buffalo does not have a very good run defense. So let's see how that continues down the stretch. And this is why, to me, and I'm not necessarily advocating for it. I'm saying if the Dolphins finish 8-9 after being 1-6, 2-7, 2-7, that would make them. Why my numbers off? If they finish if they go 4-1 down the stretch, then they would be 9-8, not 8-9.
Yeah.
That's why my math's all messed up.
But I still don't think, and I know like the way I feel, and I'm trying not to be negative about it or come off as a Dolphins downer here, but
That's my job here.
I know, but I just feel like your eyeballs don't deceive you when you look at this team. Like the record is great, but there is an annoying level of context that needs to go into it. You have beaten up on not only bottom feeders, but they are born out of the soil. Like they are the bottom of the bottom of this league, like below the crust type of stuff that you've been able to roll off wins other than the Bills, roll off wins, but it's not even been all that impressive. And maybe they'll pull off a huge 30-point win in Pittsburgh, or maybe they'll blow the doors off Cincinnati. I don't know. I can't prognosticate the future, but this is still a team not built for inclement weather situations. This is still not a team that has a reliable secondary option, Devon Achane. And forget it being Achane or the Dolphins for a second. I'm concerned with any running back in 2025 that has to go 20-plus carries every single game for 3 straight years, because the tread eventually starts to wear on those guys. So if he indeed is going to be your offensive centerpiece, you better have another option than a Jalen Wright in that spot. This is, I would argue, the Mostert-Wilson running duo was significantly more formidable as a package than Achane and insert running back here in the early part of the McDaniel era.
Well, except, and I would counter by saying Achane's better than Raheem Mostert at his best, even 2023 Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, there's no doubt. He's the superior back, but he doesn't have the accomplice that I think Jeff Wilson was before he started getting injured. And then you added...
Or when Achane was Mostert's accomplice.
Correct. Right. Exactly.
Okay. What was I going to say? But mind you, folks, I am not predicting this. I am just saying in the hypothetical that the Dolphins go on around the end of the season. This is why the New Orleans game was kind of disappointing for me, because it did not suggest that there's that kind of run coming in the least. In fact, if the Dolphins were to lose against the Jets on Sunday, it would not surprise me. The Dolphins kind of sort of were lucky to win that game against New Orleans, especially when you see the replay from the end zone angle of Chris Olave letting a ball go through his hands on the second down on the last drive of the game. That really should have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
And I have some folks on Twitter hitting me back saying, well, that works both ways. Yes, it does, except the Dolphins are supposed to not have to rely on that when they're playing New Orleans, which, even though they were plucky in that game, give them credit for that, they're still 2-10.
Yeah, right. And they're bad. And yeah. I will say this too, because his name hasn't come up, and I've largely just sort of been unimpressed, and I've talked about it with you, but I thought Minkah Fitzpatrick, outside of just the 2-point conversion he brought back, Minkah Fitzpatrick was very disruptive against the Saints. And I know there's a lot he does that maybe doesn't show up on a box score, but I have been underwhelmed by his presence this year. And I thought that he definitely was in on a lot of the Dolphins' success against the Saints, especially in the first half.
Although, if you're one of those who believes in the Pro Football Focus grades, and I
here and there.
Yeah, correct. Here and there. When their grades support my arguments that I make for my eyeballs, it's the best side.
When it's convenient for you, yes.
Of course. That's how that works. They have him ranked as the second best safety in the NFL. So, and I don't necessarily see it, but I think he's been solid. It's like for many years, PFF was just absolutely in love, and I'm doing the heart. For those listening on the audio podcast, I'm doing the heart thing here on my Mac. PFF just loved Javon Holland, and I personally never saw it. I thought his rookie season was his best year, and even at that, which is why I had no issue with Dolphins letting him go. So anyway, but yeah, Minka was absolutely great, and it brought to light, as I wrote on Miami Dolphins on SI.com, brought to light what's going on in Pittsburgh with both Jonnu Smith. And here's the thing with Jonnu, and if we gave him truth serum, would he say? Because I would hope he had to know that going to Pittsburgh, which already had a Pat Fryermuth, who was an established tight end, and they had an emerging guy in Darnell Washington, the guy who looks like an offensive tackle. Mm-hmm. And the offense being structured differently than it was in Miami last year and all the opportunities he got, he had to know his numbers were not going to be the same. But they have been microscopic. I asked Perk yesterday on the podcast, if you were to guess, would you know what his single game high this season is for receiving yards? Jonnu Smith, it's 28 yards.
Oh my God.
Yes. I mean, it's
God.
Ridiculous. So yes, he got a new contract, got more money. If you were to give him a truth serum right now, does he regret having pushed for the new contract and he moved his way out of town, or would he have preferred coming back to the Dolphins? Remember, he played at Florida International University, my alma mater. So who knows? Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. He has always enjoyed my conversations with Ken Levica, FAU Athletics, ESPN Radio Sports Talk, and Inter Miami. And this is where I want to do your plug. Inter Miami is now in the championship run against Vancouver. Yep. It's in Miami. When is that being played?
So Saturday, 2:30. It is Inter Miami and Vancouver for the MLS Cup. And you can hear me locally, ESPN 106.3, the ESPN South Florida app, or you can hear me nationally on Sirius XM. And you can listen to me while watching worldwide on Apple TV and YouTube.
Very nice. Any doubt in your mind Inter Miami wins this?
Yes, because Vancouver clubbed them 2 different times in the CONCACAF Champions Cup all the way back in June. So this would very much be retribution for Inter Miami if they can win, but they are playing their best soccer, period, at any point this year right now. So this is a great time to get Vancouver.
Okay. You heard it here first. Check him out. He is Ken Levica. Ken, as always, thank you very much. For the rest of the folks out here, please like, subscribe, share, comment. Check out the website, please, Miami Dolphins and SI.com. The podcast is available in audio form wherever you get your audio podcast. And programming note, we have a Dolphins Collective Tuesday evening. It's going to be 6 p.m. Eastern time. Dudley Durong, T-Defense Talk, Omar Kelly, and myself are going to be chopping it up. So thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every day.